because this is such an important question. So the question is as follows. If God only has one Son, who is this one Son, which is God's holy one Son of God? Am I, as a separate identity, God's holy Son? Is the world I see, all 7 billion of us, as separate identities, entities, God's holy Son? The answer is no, we're not. As separate identities, we're dream characters that see themselves as separate and think they each have an individual mind. They appear to. But every single being in the 7 billion of us is dreamt up by a singular being. And that singular being is the Holy Son of God, but unaware that he's the Holy Son of God. So he's fallen asleep and he's having a dream where in his dream, 7 billion characters appear to be having their own identity, their own mind, their own obstacles, their own challenges, their own paths. So this separate self has now split itself up into 7 billion beings. And it's completely unaware that it is the Holy Son of God. That Holy Son of God, in its complete awareness, is singular and is aware that a part of itself is asleep and dreaming a dream of separation. This Holy Son of God is fully aware that it resides in that which is God. It is fully aware of its creator. But the part of itself which is asleep and dreaming a dream of separation, in this dream of separation exists the universe, exists the planets, the various stars, the solar systems, planet Earth, and all the characters on this planet, seemingly separated from each other, seemingly going off in their own directions with their own thoughts. But all those thoughts exist in the mind that is asleep. And therefore, when we all experience the world and what we look upon almost the same thing in terms of the physicality of it. Yet individually, we all seem to be having our own individual experience. That experience is generally an experience of some form of suffering, interspersed with moments of happiness. The suffering are the gifts we are given by the awakened self, the observer self. That observer self, or another word for it, would be the Christed over self. So the Christed over self holds this entire dream in conscious awareness. And yet we, as separate selves, are completely unaware that the self exists at all, or even is there. But we get a call to love from the self, the Holy Son of God. And through our ideas of separation, and therefore suffering, we seek to understand or search out the self. Not at first. At first, we simply seek to be happy. Everything we do is for the separate self's happiness, joy, and peace. Because without joy, you can't have happiness. Without joy and happiness, you cannot have peace. And without peace, you can't have the other two. So we seek out to be happy, first through the acquisition of people, places, things, and events. And yet, no matter what we acquire, that longing, that emptiness returns, and the suffering returns. Happiness is just another word for no suffering. Happiness is just another word for a state of peace. And so, as we start to let go of the idea of separation, we start to get glimpses that something beyond us is observing and holds us in space. Now, at first, we get this concept that must be God. What it really is the Holy Son of God, the mind which is awakened, okay, and within it lies the mind which is asleep. A part of itself is asleep and dreaming a dream of separation. Now, when God became aware, that's all now, becomes aware that the Son is having a dream of separation, God speaks into the dream. I'm using human terms. Says, awaken, return to me. You're having a dream where you believe As a son, you've become the prodigal son. You've gone off and found your own direction, and you're lost in your direction. Return to me. So God speaks another word. He speaks his word. He speaks his Holy Spirit into the dream of separation. And that holy word is his Holy Spirit, or the light, or the love that calls us home, calls us to return to the remembrance or awakening that we are the Holy Son of God asleep. And so as we let go of the identity of separation, that we are not a body, we are free, that we are as God has created us, always free. Nothing has changed. No matter what I've created, no matter what I think I am, no matter what sin I think I've created or has been done to me, isn't real. It exists only in dream. The singular mind has dreamt it all up. And behind all these separate selves, the observer remains. So if what is real in me, what exists in me, also exists in you, and what is that? The I that observes. If I exists in you as the observer, the over self, observing without judgment, it exists in me and exists in 7 billion of us, that I must be the common ground. So there's not 7 billion I amness observers watching us. There is simply one awakened mind, Holy Son of God mind, watching the separation and calling us back. The separate self is unaware of this mind, of the true self. The little I, the little 7 billion I's, having an I identity, I separate experience, is unaware of the self. But the self, which is the Holy Son of God, is aware that a part of itself thinks it's separate. As we awaken, we forget of our separate self. We forget of the entity, the identity of self. And one by one, these separate selves awaken, revealing no separate self at all, revealing the I am, that which is I am, the awareness that I am. And so as we forgive, we forget the dream of separation, and we awaken to the self-revelation of the self. As all 7 billion of us forgive, or as all 7 billion of us forget that we're separate selves, realize that we're all one, realize that the experience we're having is simply an idea made manifest, or in a seeming dual world, we awaken to the realization this was but a dream. And as we awaken into that realization that I am the awareness, that I am the awareness, that I am the awareness, and so it continues infinitum, I realize I am the Holy Son of God. I, the collective, now awakened mind's the Holy Son of God, and it awakens into the full awareness of itself and realizes that this has taken place simply as a moment in time which did not exist. And this is why it's so important to realize that what we're experiencing, as many non-dualist students think, this is not God experiencing himself through separate selves. This is the Son of God, the prodigal son, fallen asleep and dreaming a dream of separation. But to awaken in God and realize that he had never left. And so God has no need to experience itself in a duality of separateness. God is the infinite I am, the infinite light, which is unconditional light, love, peace, in continuous growth. It simply exists a singular cell, and that which is God, ever expanding, ever growing, that for a moment in time had a dream and forgot not to laugh. That's as simple as I can put it.
Luis,